Sometimes the price isn't final, it's just a suggestion, but only a few people know how to make that number shift without raising their voice, without arguing, without looking desperate. They walk in calm, ask the right questions, and leave the seller questioning their own price. Today, I'll show you 4 dark psychology techniques to quietly gain control in high-cost conversations so you buy what you want for much less than they plan to sell it. Not through pressure, but through presence. This is not about manipulation. This is about positioning, and it starts with silence. 1. Shift the frame before the price appears. Most people walk into a negotiation already smaller than the moment. They think the seller owns the power because the price tag looks bold, final, loud. But what they don't realize is, whoever sets the frame controls the outcome. Before price is even discussed, you need to shift the context. And here's how. You speak like the decision is already halfway yours. Not in arrogance, not in fake confidence, just with presence. You don't ask, how much is this worth? You say, I'm deciding between this and another option. Just need to know how flexible this one is. You're not begging, you're weighing. And that small shift, it makes them chase you now. Because suddenly, you're not a buyer in need. You're a chooser with options. They start rethinking their price. They want to win you over. And that's where discounts are born. Not through pressure, but through subtle repositioning. If someone does this, they're not loud. They're not obvious. They just shift the air around the deal. From, please let me buy, to show me why I should. And the seller feels the frame change, even if they don't know how it happened. That's power. And in that moment, the price no longer belongs fully to them. It's shared. 2. Slow down the pace of their authority. In the first moment, you shifted the frame. You tilted the conversation away from need toward choice. Now, the next move is even more subtle. You control how fast they expect you to respond. Most buyers, when they hear a price, they react too quickly. They nod, they flinch, they speak. And in that moment, the seller keeps the tempo. They stay in charge, but power lives in slowness. When you hear the price, pause, breathe, let it settle. Because when you take your time to react, you're telling them one thing without saying a word. I'm not impressed. I'm not afraid. I have space to decide. That pause breaks their momentum, and in that silence, they start negotiating against themselves. They explain more. They soften. They talk themselves downward. You're not arguing. You're just not filling the space too soon. And that's what unsettles them. Not aggression, but stillness. If someone does this, they don't talk fast. They hold space like it's theirs, because once you've shifted the frame, you don't rush back into their tempo. You own the silence. That silence becomes your pressure. And the seller, they start lowering their terms just to get your response. It's the quiet tension that buys you the better deal. 3. Let doubt enter the room gently by now. You've changed the frame, you've slowed the tempo, and in this third move, you add something so subtle, most people never see it coming. You introduce doubt, but not like a threat, like a passing breeze. You don't say, that's too expensive, that's resistance. And resistance creates defense. Instead, you say, it's close, but I'm not fully convinced yet. Now what happens? You've invited them to earn your confidence. And people fight harder to win you than to sell to you. If someone does this, they don't demand lower prices. They let the seller feel like the offer is on thin ice, but never broken. That tension, it's persuasive because the seller doesn't want to lose the deal. But they also don't know exactly what's missing. And that's where control lives. They start lowering extras. They adjust numbers. They start chasing your approval, not your money. You're not playing hardball. You're planting uncertainty with a calm voice and patient presence. This trick only works because the first 2 created space for it. You reframe the interaction. You slowed the rhythm. Now, you tilt the decision-making energy into your hands by allowing a small seed of hesitation to grow in theirs. And they'll do what they can to protect the deal from falling apart, without knowing you're the one who made it tremble. Exit with quiet certainty. Before they do, you've shifted the frame, you've slowed the pace, you've let doubt breathe into the room. Now comes the final move, and it's the one most people are too afraid to use. You walk away first, not with anger, not with manipulation, but with certainty. Here's what that sounds like. It's a solid offer. I'll think about it and let you know. That one sentence does more damage to price control than any argument ever could, because when you calmly pull back, you remind them they're not the only option, and you're not desperate to buy. If someone does this, they leave with quiet power. They don't chase callbacks. They don't wait for approval. And what usually happens, the seller calls them back, sometimes with a better number, sometimes with added value, because silence becomes leverage. The truth is, most buyers fear the exit. They think leaving means losing. But in psychology, the moment you leave first, you reset the emotional table. You show that you're not controlled by urgency, and people lower prices when they sense time is slipping away. But that only works if you've built every layer leading up to this moment, framed the deal around your decision, controlled the pace, planted subtle hesitation, and now left them with the tension. That's not just negotiation. That's dark psychology at its quietest and strongest. At the end, this wasn't just about buying cheaper, it was about buying differently, with your presence, not your pressure. You didn't just learn tactics, you learned timing. You learned how silence can move numbers, and how calm hesitation can make people shift their terms. Let me give you a picture. A year from now, you'll be sitting across a desk, about to close a deal. Maybe it's a car, a business contract, a rental. The other person lays out their offer. You don't flinch, you don't speak, you breathe, you pause, you smile just a little, and say, "I'll think about it." And in that moment, they'll start lowering the price, adding value, trying to hold on to a deal. They think they might lose, and you won't even be trying. Because by then, these techniques will be second nature. You'll know exactly what you're doing, but it'll feel like nothing at all. That's what dark psychology gives you. When used with emotional intelligence and awareness, it gives you invisible control, not through words, but through energy. You've just unlocked 4 subtle techniques that work in real rooms, with real people, in real moments where most lose their voice. And if this made you feel prepared, if this video gave you clarity, not just knowledge, but that feeling of, I needed this, then don't walk away quietly. Subscribe, because this isn't motivation. This is transformation. We're not here to hype you up. We're here to quietly arm you with what most people never get taught. So next time you hear, "That's the best we can offer," you'll know it's not. And they'll know it too, even if they can't explain why. That's your edge now. Use it and stay close, because this is just the beginning.